begin chapter 9, talking about powers and exponents. So we're going to talk about writing things in different forms to start with. So one thing you can do with exponents is represent a repeated factor in standard form. Now I know that's a lot of math gobbledygook, but what that really means is instead of having to write, let's just look down here. Instead of having to write 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, you can just say 2 to the 5th. So an exponent is really a shorter way of writing repeated multiplication. Those x's in this case are multiplying, those are not variables. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So exponents are a way to represent a repeated factor, meaning repeated multiplication in standard form. So the repeated factor, the number that's being multiplied by itself over and over, is called the base. The exponent tells us how many times the factor is repeated or multiplied by itself. So you notice the title here is Powers and Exponents. Now, truthfully, even with my college professors, these words are often used interchangeably, but technically speaking, an exponent is that small number written up top, like in here it's the 4, here it's the 2. And this thing as a whole, 2 to the 4th, or x squared, is called a power. Now, I'm not going to be picky with you about that at this class, but I'm just telling you that mathematically, the exponent is just this piece. The power is this whole thing. So let's use what we just learned to label this diagram. So here's our word bank, these 4 things. We want to label this over here. So the base, remember, is the number that's being multiplied over and over. That's the 2. So this 2 right here is the base. The base represents the repeated factors, which is this right here. So repeated isn't just because it's more than once, but it's because it's the same thing more than once. I'm saying lots of words, but you wouldn't say I'm repeating myself unless I say the same word over and over. I wasn't stuttering, I was trying to explain repeated means the same thing over and over. Then the exponent is the number that's written up high. And the power, as I said, is the base and the exponent combined. So this thing as a whole is called the power. So the base is the number written in normal size. The exponent is written a little smaller up higher. And then them together is called the power. Just a reminder, anything written to the second power can also be called squared. So like this, you can say x to the second power, or you can say x squared. To the third power, it's called cubed. So that's not only x to the third power, that's x cubed. Now beyond that, we just say to whatever number power. So for example, this right here would be said 10 to the 5th power. So we have special names for the 2 and the 3. But beyond that, it's just said to the 4th power, to the 5th power, to the 6th power, and so on. Okay, so first thing we want to make sure you know how to do is write using exponents. So all these x's in this worksheet are just all the x's up here in this section anyway are talking about multiplying. So this is 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Now you could type that in the calculator and find out what it's equal to, but that's not what it's asking. It does not say evaluate or solve. It says write each expression using exponents. So 7 is what's being multiplied over and over. That means our base is 7. We can count as we multiplied 1, 2, 3, 4 times, so we do it to the 4th power. Here our base would be 4 because that's what's being repeated over and over. It's multiplied 1, 2, 3 times, so 4 to the third power. On this one, 2 is being multiplied over and over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, so we would make our exponent 12. As you can see, exponents can make things a lot shorter in a good way. Here, 3 is the factor being multiplied over and over, so we put 3 as our base. It's being multiplied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Now here you might be like, wait a minute, there's only one of them. Well, we don't write it, but when a number is written or multiplied by itself just one time, there is an understood power of 1. So this will be important, especially in later lessons in this unit. You need to remember that technically everything has an exponent. When we don't write 1, there's an understood 1 that is the exponent. Number 6 is showing you that not only can we write exponents with numbers being multiplied over and over, but also with variables being multiplied over and over. So just like we can have a number as our base, we can also have a variable or a letter as our base. So G's our base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have G to the 7th power. We can also have something other than just a single number or a single letter or variable raised to a power. So this is multiplying k plus 2 by itself 4 times. So we have to keep k plus 2 in parentheses, and we raise it to the 4th power. And the reason we keep it in parentheses is to make sure it's clear that it's this entire thing being multiplied by itself. It's not just k, it's not just 2, but it's k plus 2 being multiplied by itself 4 times. Okay, and they'll also ask us sometimes to combine something that has different letters and different numbers. So 5 and 3 aren't the same number, so we can just say 5 times 3 is 15. There's 1, 2, 3 r's, so I would say r cubed. And there's 1, 2 s's, so I would say s squared. Because you can only combine things that are the same. So I can't combine the 3 and the r, or the r and the s, because they're different letters. But I can combine 5 and 3 because they're both numbers. And I can make exponents with r because there's 3 of the same thing, exponents with s because there's 2 of the same thing. Okay, the last thing I want us to do is just be able to know how to do this in the calculator. So this says evaluate. So that word means we're trying to solve or find a number answer. So x equals 6, y equals negative 2, and z equals 1/2. So we plug these in. X is 6, so that's 6 squared. Y is negative 2, so we do negative 2 cubed. And you must put negative numbers in parentheses when they're being raised to an exponent. Because if you type this in your calculator, it cubes the 2, but only the 2, then applies the negative sign. By putting parentheses, you're letting it know that we're not just cubing the 2, we're not just multiplying 2 by itself 3 times, we're multiplying negative 2 by itself 3 times. So you can plug this in the calculator. So 6 squared, which the squared button is right here next to the 7. You can just do squared that way. Plus parenthesis, negative 2, close the parenthesis. And then while we do have a squared button, for any other exponent, we'll use the button right above it. This is called a caret. That's the way we do an exponent that's not squared. So I hit that button. So that's telling me to do his exponent, and I'm doing a 3 because I'm raising it to the 3rd power. So 6 squared plus negative 2 cubed, I just hit enter, and it gives me 28. Now this is a question I get asked sometimes. Well, do I have to use the squared button to do squared? No, you certainly can, but I could have done the caret for both of these, and I'll show you. I could do 6 caret 2 for 6 squared plus negative 2 in parentheses caret 3 and I still get the same answer. So for squared, you can use the squared button or use the caret and then a 2. Either way will work. Okay, on number 10, we'll do 10 plus negative 2 squared. So 10 plus parentheses, because it's a negative number being raised to an exponent, squared, we get 14. Because when you square something, it's always going to end up positive, because negative times a negative equals a positive. So that's really negative 2 times negative 2, making it a positive 4. 10 plus 4 is 14. Now other variables, it can be negative, but with squared, it's always positive. Okay, 11, we do x plus y, so 6 plus negative 2, and we cube the whole thing. And I have parentheses around the entire thing, just like they had parentheses around the x plus y, because I'm not just cubing x, I'm not just cubing y, I'm adding them together and then cubing the result. So I start a parenthesis, 6 plus parentheses, negative 2. Then I have 2 parentheses to close, that one and that one. Then I use the caret button and do the third power. So we get 64. Okay, last one. Do 2 minus, then z is 1/2 squared. Now when you're writing, you don't, well actually it is best with fractions also, because you want to make sure it doesn't look like you're only squaring the one that's on top. It's 1/2 times 1/2. So just like we'll do it when we write it, so when we write negative numbers or fractions, we'll put parentheses around them. We'll want to do that in the calculator also. So 2 minus parentheses 1/2, close the parentheses, square it. So we get 1 3/4. You can write that as your answer. Or if you notice, I used this button right here to do my fraction, and that'll give you a fraction as your answer, which is fine. You can say 1 3/4 is your answer. Or if I do the same thing, except instead of using the fraction button, I use the division button. So I do 1 divided by 2. That's just another way to do a fraction in the calculator, is with the division sign. Then it gives me the decimal form, 1.75. And I am fine with either version of that answer.